Welcome back to the Combo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And John and Oz.
Here we go again.
No, I got Johnny. The thing. I almost said Johnny because Fiorella laughed like old school. It's been a while since she's kind of laughed at my initial let's bring it in with energy. But fam, I'm feeling pretty. I'm wearing purple. I'm ready to rock and roll today, despite the world going to shit.
All that matters is that you feel pretty, because we can't do the show unless you feel pretty.
Well,
It's that simple. You know, I understand how sensitive you are, and it's been something I've had to grapple with. And you also don't understand the terminology hot mic, don't you? Because like when he says it's going to be a hot mic and you keep talking, you know the audience can hear that, right? Okay.
Yeah, I do know I do grasp the concept, but I'm still just going to be me. Atras is here. Maria is there. Popeye the Sailor, Zavi. Everybody's hanging out. We got 45 people who jumped into the rock thing quickly, guys. Like, share, subscribe. Fams, who's hanging over on the YouTubes over there other than Jilly Love? We know Jilly Love. Too Odd, BK, James Lizer. You're all hanging out with the Convo Couch. 65 watching right now. Guys, remember to like, hit the up button, hit the like button. Remember to share, do all those things. We are still getting majorly demonetized and put down over on YouTube. So we need to get the word out there as much as we can. Of course, if you have time to get over to Rockfin, please do so.
And I got to give a shout out to Jonny and True Rebel Network for live streaming the State of the Union yesterday, because that was extremely painful to watch. And, you know, I watched a lot of it, so you guys don't have to, because a lot of people were like, I can't, like they came on the stream and they heard like 20 seconds and they were like, I can't do this. And then our friend Wyatt was like, I physically could not listen to more than like 20 seconds. And it's just, it was a joke. It was an absolute circus. It was more entertaining than informative. We knew that was going to be bad. Like we knew it was going to be bad, but I don't know if I prepared myself for Biden's gaffes, like to this level. I mean, he just keeps impressing me, like, you know, each time just getting worse and worse and worse, fam. Like,
well,
yeah.
From a technical aspect, fam, if I'm one of his handlers, I want to go with that brand of adrenochrome because he was really fucking good. That's a joke, everybody. He was really, as far as he only had a couple gaffes, and one of them was the big gaff, which we're kind of like going to mention too as well. Big ups to Alex Rubenstein for cutting that up and putting that up pretty quickly too as well, fam. But yeah, making that joke, it's like, wow, he made it through the whole thing. I thought he would have like, you know, stopped halfway through, demanded milk and cookie time, but he did not. He went through it. He powered through. So big ups.
He had energy. He had energy.
I don't know where it came from. You know what I'm saying?
From the adrenochrome, fam.
Those are jokes out there, everybody.
I'm just joking.
Jokes.
Come on. I'm practicing for my career as a stand-up comedian.
Well, I venture some people was like, is she really joking over there and stuff? Yes.
That's up for you to determine.
For you to decide. Fam, let's jump right into this because we have a long show today. We have some great stuff we're going to talk about. Guys, we're going to do 3 sections over here on the YouTube. The 4th one, we're going to peek in the door, YouTube, and then go over to Rockfin only because it is about the Wisconsin hearing, whatnot. Last time we got a spanking for the Arizona hearing, so we're not going to take any chances. We're going to talk about that over there. But first, fam, I woke up proud to be an American. In fact, I set my alarm to, and I'm proud to be an American, where I can wave a Ukrainian flag. Please, get us rolling.
So overall, what we learned from the Biden State of the Union is that the Democrats and Republicans have made love to each other when it comes to war, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to the pandemic, and when it comes to also, of course, this Ukraine-Russia issue, particularly their mutual hatred for Putin and their mutual love for the police. Overall, Joe Biden was pro-police, pro-war, you know, and you had Mitch McConnell there, you had Ted Cruz, all of them clapping along with AOC and the squad. I mean, they were all just clapping and showing their proud Ukrainian flags. But the thing that stole the night, the performance of the night, was Kamala Harris's face. When Joe Biden mistaken Ukraine for Iran and said the Iranian people instead of the Ukrainian people. Now, people have said maybe he said Iranian, which would imply a whole other level of things that we won't even get to today, because uranium is a whole.
Is there people from uranium? Is that a town? Because he could have said Uranus. I don't know.
He could have talked about the uranium, shit that he got into back then. But I think he's just confused. But let's just watch, because I really enjoyed Kamala's face here. And let's just listen.
Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom, and he will never weaken the resolve of the free world.
So if you didn't catch that, he said Putin may encircle Kyiv with tanks, but he will never know the hearts of the Iranian people like we did.
Why can't they say Kiev? I mean, why is it so hard? Kiev. How badly did she hate Biden, though? Like, I mean, she can't stand him. She can't stand him at all.
And she's not good herself either as an actress. I mean, she's a terrible actress. But somebody also had commented under this video, why does Biden always look like he's looking at the brightest sun in the world? And you know what? I don't know if the lights are too bright for him. Maybe we need to get tech in here, but he does constantly look like
he looks like one of those puppets, those Muppets that have the squinted eye. He looks like Steve. He looks like
the one Johnny put up yesterday from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It's the puppet from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He looks exactly like him. I forgot I was going to put the photo up.
The ones with the big bushy eyes and you can't see him and stuff. What was the bald eagle guy? Like Mr. Eagle guy. That one, the bald eagle guy, like the Muppet.
Oh, that's Sesame Street, right? Yeah.
I think it might be, but I think they're all the same creator. He created Joe Biden too as well.
Well, I said the other puppet was at least better at being a puppet than this one. So here's another gaffe, because I think we need to go over geography. You know how they always make fun of Americans? We can't point to shit on a map. Well, Joe Biden is a prime example.
Our forces are not going to Europe to fight Ukraine.
Hey, Pasta, I have $1 million question.
West Asia?
Is Ukraine?
I mean,
where is Ukraine located? I would like to know.
I don't know, but I just know what's coming next, and I'm going to start laughing my ass off because, even if you say Eastern Europe, then like, okay, we'll let you off. It's really Western Asia, right? Is that the technical?
No.
Where is it at?
Ukraine is Europe. Ukraine is Europe.
Isn't it Eastern Europe?
Yeah, but it's still Europe. He said we're not going to go into Europe to go into Ukraine. That's the gap. And you just gaffed the gap.
I gaffed the gaff.
You proved to be a typical.
There you go, guys. Ukraine. I can never be the president of the United States. Do not hire me.
You can, because you and Biden,
Well, I would do what this next person did just to cover it up, fam.
Yeah, so this is the same energy, fams. This is a little comical. It's a little lighthearted segment right now. Not really.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa. It should help the Iraq and the Asian countries. So we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
I wish she would have said, "What the fuck did you just say?"
That was Biden's moment. Oz, you should show that picture. Oz has a picture he needs to show. You should show it.
Show it, Oz.
Show Okay, put it in the deck. It's hilarious. Okay, guys. So that, this is like the lighthearted part of the segment, because within that, they were promoting violence against Russia and Putin and war and imperialism. And also one of the things that was notable, of course, about the Biden administration is the fact that they're pro-cop. Like we told a lot of people from the start, the people that were saying they were going to mitigate damage.
Yeah.
The Biden administration, the, crime bill Joe, were always going to be extremely, extremely pro-police. And so Biden was basically promoting funding the police. He said, we're not going to defund the police. We're going to fund the police.
Yep.
And I just think back, Pasta, at all the activists that were basically, kind of trying to shame us for not voting for Joe Biden and for talking about how this is promoting him is basically promoting more of the same, if not worse, than Trump, because we knew the media was going to hide it. Anytime he did something, the media was going to hide it. So I don't know if you want to say anything to that real quick.
Well, here's the thing. Whether you're pro-police or anti-police, whatever position you stand on, whether you believe they should be more funded or not funded, the fact is that he told us they got behind this. This was one of their campaign slogans, right? When it was the primary, it was all about, we're going to defund the police, which meant that you're going to take some form of action, whether it be demilitarizing, whether you be restructuring some of the way the police forces are around the country are structured, meaning, in other words, they can't investigate themselves, whatever the case may be. It looked like you were making it sound like you're going to take some crack at, reformation. You didn't. As soon as you got in, as soon as you didn't need the progressives and the primary was over, you got right back into this pro-police stance, which is very much like, a conservative stance. And whether you believe in that to be right or wrong, he lied. He told you something different when he was running. And then he completely changed his stance, and this is his first State of the Union. It's completely different than what he said when he was running in the progressive, it's not the progressive, when he was running in the Democratic primaries. Completely different. When he told the progressives that he was going to have some form, of changing the way we see police today.
Exactly. And he lied, because we didn't expect that from a Republican. But a lot of progressives voted believing, of course, naively, that he would do something about it when they were just weaponizing BLM, to that whole extent. So on Politico reported what he said we should all agree the answer is not to defund the police, it is to fund the police. And he, of course, received extremely strong applause, with cameras showing McCarthy and House Minority Whip Steve Scalise clapping and giving him a standing ovation. Fund them with resources and training. I mean, he was just cheering about all of that. And by the way, I skipped one of my favorite parts because I went straight to the policing. One of the main acts of last night was this little moment by Nancy Pelosi.
When she was shape-shifting?
When she was shape-shifting, as people claimed, this is from Luke We Are Change, posted that Nancy was there. And I just said, I'll have what she's having.
I know. I saw that. Everybody took a little gaff right there and went, let's go. But it was kind of crazy. I'm like, what the hell is she doing? And let me just say this much. All these people need to go. They're doing this right in front of your face. The BS, the lies, the gaslighting, the pretending like they've been doing something for the American people for years. We've been set back as far as a working class, as far as our lifestyle. We've been set back 20, 30 years, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Forget about it. We can't own houses. We can only rent our generation. Most of the people your age, fam, are now just strapped with college debt. That was ridiculous, where it was so much more expensive than when our parents went to school. Everything has changed, and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Somebody gets in, they give you nothing. They haven't done a thing, not a single thing for the working class people, and yet they want to sell you shit and tell you it's ice cream. Shame on them.
It doesn't. And my generation has experienced 2 recessions a pandemic, the housing crash. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
and now
war, right?
endless war since before like some people were born. So I mean, it's insane, and it hasn't stopped. And there's no student debt forgiveness. His wife couldn't, convince him, which we know it's not on Jill. We know it's but they refuse. So we have to laugh.
Yeah.
In the moment at these fucking people, because these people are idiots. These people are charlatans. They're actors. Nobody took that serious. You could go through the internet. In fact, the word trash was trending online because that's what this whole thing was. It was a circus show, but it was extreme trash. They offered zero solutions, just a bunch of garbage, word salad, and virtue signaling. Zero solutions. Nobody took it seriously. I am just waiting for people to understand that they need to do something to stop this. And it's going to require people not voting every 4 years. It's going to require more than that. So let's just laugh at Nancy for a second.
Burn pits. Many of you have been there. I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan 7 times.
What is she doing?
These burn pits that incinerate waste, the waste of war.
What is she doing, fam?
I guess she's excited for war, or excited for her stocks. Excited.
Wow.
I mean, she's excited about something. I don't know what they gave her, but like, damn, she was having a great time. I'm like, damn, I'll have what she's having for real.
I mean, by the way, when we're talking about war too as well, like, you and Jonny haven't never lived in peacetime. I've lived in peacetime. Me and Oz have lived in peacetime, but it's been so long ago that we can't even remember it. That's how long it is. One conflict after the other. Even my mom caught on. She said, when I spoke to her today, she goes, I can't believe they took RT off the air. She goes, I can't believe it. And she would watch it every day. She would go to it and check it out, along with her Fox shows. I would get her to say, hey, check it out. And she loved it. And she thought it was unbiased. She thought it was a different side. She didn't even think it was biased. Like, she even realized that state TV in the States is way more biased than the TV over there. So she can't even believe it was taken off. You know what I'm saying, fam? And it's just, it's one thing after the other. I tweeted yesterday, how long are you people going to take this? This is now in your face. They're doing this. They're not changing anything. And it's not going to change, fam, like you said, until we do something about it. Enough is enough. These people are gross. They are disgusting. I know the State of the Union is normally for, like, kind of fluffing up what's going on, but this was just the worst. This was just, awful, nauseating. I wanted to vomit the whole time.
And fam, Oz has a little surprise for you. Look who's right next to Biden. Gotta say, you look better.
That's Jeff Dunham's Walter, his ventriloquist dummy, and then we've got Kamala Putin up there and Nancy AOC, and then Oz was ready to stand in for Joe Biden last night, and I think I would have done a better job than Joe. So anyway, that's in another dimension.
Yes, it is. It's hilarious. So another person that was. Another person that was clapping like a seal, and I don't want to insult seals, but like a walrus. I don't know, like they were just like clapping, like all of them. They were all Republican, conservative, Democratic, socialist, and like all these people all clapping for Biden, like it was obviously programmed. But AOC did a little interview with our best friend Rachel Maddow, who I thought she was retiring. Can she freaking retire already? Where she was talking about refugees and the importance of refugees. So let's hear what she has to say, and then we'll talk about what she said.
Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, one of the things that you were just talking about in terms of the president's treatment of the issue of immigration, talking to immigrants, talking about dreamers, for example, I wanted to get your take on something that we know is coming, which is the massive refugee crisis that we are about to see in Europe that is caused by the Russian attack on Ukraine. So far, authorities say there's already 2/3 of a million people who have been displaced. We will likely see millions of people displaced. And not just in our country, but around the world, we have seen refugees and immigrants not just scapegoated, but demonized in a way that tends to cross over into all sorts of politics. Now that we know a huge new migration is going to start because of that war, do you have caution or words of advice or lessons learned for your own party, for American politics generally, in terms of how to be smarter about those politics, about the inevitable demonization of those victimized people?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I think the world is watching, and many immigrants and refugees are watching. And how the world treats Ukraine should be, and Ukrainian refugees, should be how we are treating all refugees in the United States. I mean, especially when you look at such stark juxtapositions where so many of the factors are in common with Syria, for example. The way the world treated Syrian refugees versus the way that the world is greeting Ukrainian refugees is a very stark contrast. And I think that the way that we are looking at immediate granting of TPS to Ukrainian refugees, which is what we need to be doing, as well as many others, is something that we really need to keep in mind, because I do believe that, for example, the thousands of people who tried to seek legal refuge on our southern border, how Haitian refugees have been treated by the United States, not just in past administrations, but frankly this one, is not right. And we really need to make sure that when we talk about accepting refugees, that we are meaning it for everybody, no matter where you come from. But I do believe that this also presents a profound opportunity because of the amount of extraordinary support for Ukraine and Ukrainian refugees. If we grant TPS to Ukrainian refugees, this is also an opportunity to finally create a path to citizenship for TPS recipients. A lot of people don't know that TPS recipients, by and large, do not really have a concrete path to citizenship. Many have been here for decades. So I think that this is also, while there is a risk, there's also a profound opportunity for us to make the crooked path straight on this issue.
Wow, fam, how convenient now that we can mention that war leads to migration, and the fact that she'll just throw out Syria and the fact that she'll throw out Haitians. I don't remember her telling that we should give, residency and allow some of the refugees from Haiti that came in to come into the country. She just mentions it now because people were calling her out on that. And in fact, they got a whipping from some, a few of them got a couple whippings and then got thrown on a plane and got sent back to Haiti. That to me was the big part, like sending them back to Haiti, a lot of them, whatnot, and what are we going to do now? Who the first people going to be allowed to come over here are going to be, right? I'm saying a lot of the Azov battalion, friends of the Western regime that listened to the United States that caused these problems. That's who we're going to take care of first to come on over here, fam. I mean, I'm sure there are some Ukrainians that will come over that are not neo-Nazis. Once again, I think it's a small minority over there, but it's a strong minority because it's all in the government and all through the military and whatnot, and they caused a lot of fucking problems. You couldn't control those people. But who we're going to grant asylum to first, fam? It's always the people who are friendly to the government first. We know this. Who listen to them? That's going to be who's coming in. And it's just so convenient that Sandy can now mention this whatsoever. I mean, the woman is such a fake. She's such a phony. Is that a Ukraine pin on her shirt?
No, is it? I think, yeah, it is. I think at the bottom.
They were all wearing it.
So it's like a little flag.
They were all wearing it.
So the reason I showed this clip is because a lot of people are going to say, she's saying the right things, Fiorella. She's talking about the differences between Syria and how Syrians are treated and how Haitians are treated, something that, we have been drawing attention to for a while and that we continue to draw attention to. So I want everybody to understand that is her role. She is controlled opposition. So she will say these right things, obviously, when it's safe to say them. Kind of like there is the controlled opposition, quasi, not really independent media, the progressive media. It's the same way. They will say the right things every now and then, especially when it's safe to do so. But their primary role is to really not push for any actual change because they wait until their handlers tell them it's okay to speak out against something, when in action they might give you nice words, but in action, let's look at what AOC has done. She never spoke out against the bombing of Syria. She never said very much about the Palestinians besides the virtue signal. We saw what Keaton did, right? When she voted to fund present, which led to the passage of the bill to fund the Iron Dome, which guess what, is killing Palestinians. And they also formulated a nice little plan to sanction Cambodia. She never talked about the Haitian immigrants, as Pasta just mentioned, until now. So also, she has stood for terrible legislation when it comes to foreign policy, even in the very beginning when she delegated the caucus leadership on Venezuela, when she stood with the fascist coup plotters of Bolivia. I could go on and on and on.
Both sides, Cuba. Yeah.
So, yeah, both siding Cuba and not saying anything about the Renacer Act in Nicaragua.
Yeah, not a goddamn thing. Yeah.
And so I don't, and her voting record, it's just only going to get worse because we saw her agreeing with all the bullshit that Biden was saying. We've seen her tweets that I didn't even put here, her tweets on this situation where Russia is the aggressor and Russia is starting this war. So don't for a second think that AOC is somehow, has these good intentions, that she's trying to speak directly to the very, very moronic and still extremely naive progressive contingent. Yeah. So she can keep dragging them along so they can continue voting Democrat, so that she can continue sheep herding them just like sheep herder Bernie Sanders. The same exact thing. That's it. They're controlled opposition at this point. And the reason I show that is so people stop getting duped, that because she says a couple of good points here and there, that she's somehow changed her tune. You have to watch their actions and their legislative votes. And that it's as simple as that.
And I just kind of funny because I think you read my mind, because I was going to mention that, is like, why is she doing this? And how is she getting away with it? Because once again, virtue signaling and rhetoric mean more than policy and actual positions when it comes to these progressives. We know these progressives, they're very reactionary, right? You saw them right away with the whole some of these people we know, it's like there's no nuance to their game whatsoever. Oh, if Russia does imperialism, we got to stop that too. And they're in the streets talking all this stuff. It's like, hello. She also hasn't connected the dots and explained to her people, like on 2014 is the reason why we're in the situation we're in today. I didn't hear her crying for any of the people in the Donbass. That was okay, right? I mean, the fact that close to 15,000 of them have been slaughtered since we armed neo-Nazis in the Azov battalion who refused to even listen to Zelensky when Zelensky told them to stand down. They didn't give a shit. They wanted to kill Russians, and that was on our dime, our weaponry, and they did that. And she didn't connect the dots at all. So right off the bat, she's just a fake fugazi politician. She's there for one reason, and she does a good job at it, but she does a good job. Why? Because the progressives are reactionary, emotional, and they don't believe in policy. They believe in rhetoric and virtue signaling, and she gives them just that.
And this whole thing is a giant virtue signal with the Ukrainian flags. And yesterday, when they were talking about it, it was just one gigantic virtue signal. And the last thing I want to mention about the Biden State of the Union was the fact that they started shouting like a Trump, like it was like a Trump rally.
USA?
Right? USA, USA, USA. And those are the chants that a lot of these neo-progressive skinny jean left, so whatever, right? Synthetic leftists, they were like, I hate that. Oh my God, the patriotism, the nationalism, and these Trump supporters, look at how they're shouting. They're so like patriotic and nationalist. Oh, that's okay now because it's Joe Biden and because it's the Democrats and because now you are waving a fucking Ukrainian flag that you didn't even know anything about Ukraine like 2 weeks ago, but suddenly now it's all over your Facebook profile, your Twitter profile, your Instagrams. They're constantly posting about it. It's one fucking giant virtue signal because they're being propagandized by the next narrative that takes over. Forget COVID. Hate Putin, love Ukraine. There you go. And they just go right along with it, and right along with it is disgusting.
They didn't even know what Donbass was. They thought Donbass was a new like appetizer at their Korean barbecue restaurant. Like, no, it's a region in eastern Ukraine, everybody. Like, literally, these progressives didn't even know what's going on now, because that's why, because all they do is they tap in to the mainstream media sources, even though they know from the get-go, supposedly when we started this quest, that was the number one enemy, was the mainstream media. They're going to lie, propagandize, they're going to dupe us, so let's go to other sources. And they went away from a lot of these other sources because people like Sandy, the Squad, the Cori Bushes, the Pramila Jayapal, all these people duped them and moved them away, including your boy Ro Khanna too yesterday as well.
Yeah. And speaking of controlled opposition, there's Mehdi Hassan's little tweet. So he said, strong speech from Biden overall. Where the hell, what fantasy world are you living in where you thought this was a strong speech from Biden? From Ukraine to the economy to COVID, strong content and aspirations. You have to be getting paid for this, honey. Still, a fundamental problem with it. He called on Congress to pass lots of important, admirable bills, but it won't because of the filibuster that he supports. Okay, so you see what they do here? These people, they're like strong, blah, blah, blah. They have to praise the current administration because if they don't, they won't have a career. But then they also have to give a little bit of acceptable criticism to seem like they're nonpartisan and that they're critical thinkers and that they're very well balanced.
I'm radicals. I'm pushing against the machine.
Yeah,
what Oz just
filibuster, really? Like,
yeah,
Jesus Christ. And then you have here Mr. fucking, and I left this on purpose, the kiss that he's giving to Joe Biden. It's not Crystal anymore, it's Joe. Sorry, Crystal. So he said, Biden going full populist in the speech, strong, hashtag State of the Union. I mean, full populist. In what world do you think any of his speech?
He's got new bosses,
was
fam.
populist?
Fam, so, he's got new bosses.
Well, he's got a new boss, that's for sure.
Yep.
You know who wears the pants in that relationship. But guys, so here's the thing. He's trying to frame it that because Biden was giving red meat to the Republicans, that means that's not populism. That's establishment, like bipartisanship. That's not populism. Get your shit together. Like this is ridiculous. So anyway, that's that section. Oh my God.
92 people watching on the Rock, Finn. We got over 250 people watching on the YouTubes over there. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the Convo Couch. Come check us out. Make sure you hit the like button up, share it, get it out there. Remember, you can always go to theconvocouch.com to see all our links if you want to contribute to independent media that fights back against the machine. The Convo Couch is here for you right now. And don't forget to go over to Rockfin, where we get to speak the truth. That's ROKFIN.com/theconvocouch. How do you like that, fam?
Damn, that was a lot.
I know. I think people left us as I was doing that. Yeah, we lost about 5. They're like, that's it. I'm not listening to this idiot again. I had to listen to Joe Biden yesterday. I'm not dealing with Pasta's crap today. Let's get to some Super Ray contributions. Thank you so much. It's always appreciated on the couch. Jamal Nelson, love you guys. Keep up the great work. And I also hope you address Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush's response. How much crap can we talk about in one day, Jamal? But I'll tell you what, Jamal. I'll tell you what I'll do, because I get in a lot of trouble because I've been those two people in particular right there, I've been very critical of. Also, Pramila Jayapal, you can throw her in there as well. I've been very, very critical, especially of Cori Bush when it comes to trying to pass legislation that says it should be illegal to ask to look into elections. Remember that whole thing? It was somewhat of that magnitude. I can't even remember, but I remember her putting out the bill. I was like, this is really ridiculous. She would always go the white, supremacist president, Donald Trump, but yet then she's rubbing elbows with Adam Schiff, who pretty much you couldn't bomb Libya fast enough for Adam Schiff. He had to push the Clinton campaign to get on, the Clinton's Secretary of State at the time, to push her and the Obama administration to bomb. They couldn't bomb quick enough now when Libya's turned into a slave state, and then you're rubbing elbows and shaking hands with him and Chuck the Schmuck in D.C. with your little phony let's extend the moratorium. You're a progressive and you want to extend the moratorium. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll look into it maybe on Friday. If you come back to the show, Jamal, we'll have a little section. At least we'll acknowledge it and point it out. We do have a big folder today we can only do so much. And, not for nothing, Sandy takes the cake when it comes to pushing back against the squad because she's their little squad leader and she has the biggest presence. So that's why we have to make sure we counteract that. So come with us Friday and we'll see what's going on. 100 people over on the Rockfin Bubblegum Douche. Thank you for the Super Ray contribution, fam. Listen up. It is always appreciated on the couch. I feel like a little piece of Fiorella dies inside every single time I do that. Zoran Vasalik, thank you so much. Shout out from Serbia, Zoran. We saw you on Twitter. Thank you so much. We love you, Zoran. Shout out from Serbia. We'd like to hear more about your story, what's going on there. Hit us up on the Twitter. Let us know. You can always go to theconvocouch@gmail.com if you want to do that. Anybody can do that if you got a story you want to drop. Anything you want us to cover, right? Anything you want us to cover, go to the
We
Convo
don't cover
Couch.
things. We uncover them. The government covers them up.
Go to the convocouch@gmail.com. And that's it. Cultist
Somebody's
Demon,
going to say that you're a CIA agent, Putza.
Yeah, I am. Right, please. Cultist Demon, what happened to Jonny? Who is the new Oz guy? Oz is over from Roar Media. And Jonny is doing more work on the ground. You saw him last night. He's promoting True Rebel Network. Jonny's going to be doing more of that kind of on the ground, following all the rallies, whatnot. He loves doing that. He gets a natural high from it. He loves getting into the mix. And he's going to be doing more of that and doing some of his own analysis as well over on True Rebel Network. He will always be Convo Couch. Don't worry about that. We speak on a regular basis. Everything is cool. But he's going to be doing a little bit more of that, him and Johnny Farina. And I hope Johnny Farina gets back in the game. He's the old cameraman for Status Douche and get into the game over there because those guys are great and they get on the ground. And that's what we need. We need more people covering these.
We need more
rallies.
Johnnies.
We need more Johnnies, both of the Johnnies. We need more of them. We need people going out there, talking to people who are out in the streets and getting their opinions. That's very important. A lot of networks don't do it. They just put on their little, minions who are going to tell their side of the story. So that's what's going on. And if you haven't checked out Roar Media, Amber King, Shanda Master, Oz, they got a great family over there. Big ups to Franklin and everybody else. They are amazing. We met them back in the days, and they've been friends and fam ever since. Kristen Nye, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. Guys, hit that thumbs up button. I don't know why, fam, but I'm getting really upset that we've lost our trolls. We had two of them that used to come into the Rockfin and give us thumbs down. It's like, did we scare them away with the truth again? I hope not, because I wish they were here. 257 people watching on the YouTube, fam. Let's get into the next subject. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it, fam.
Okay. So, as you know, the West has been deplatforming RT left and right. The other day, Directv pulled the plug. My mom called me because she went to channel 321 on Directv. That's how I got it to remember it. And they just started pulling the plugs left and right. Now, my mom was kind of confused about this because she says, I can't believe they pulled this out. Why wouldn't they want to hear an opposing view? And not to mention, she loved the news desk. She loved the news segment, those little half-hour news segments they do. She thought it was unbiased. She thought it was fair. She liked the whole formula of when they're just going out and asking people. So she was even a little confused, and she thinks it's a little wrong. They took it off the air, but it doesn't surprise her because we are in the age of censorship. So here's the Hollywood Reporter. It says Directv drops Russian-backed RT channel effective immediately. Not even, do not wait, do not pass go, do not collect $200, fam. Immediately.
Go to jail.
Go to jail. The next one, Microsoft to remove RT apps now to ban the Russian state-owned media ads. So they got that. Third one, Russian-backed RT channel to lose Sky TV slot in the UK within 24 hours. So that is effective already. They pulled the plug over there, and I'm hearing everybody complain about that and talk about that. And then you have Fox News. RT America continues to air as Europe, Canada shuts down affiliates of Russian propaganda network. See how they frame it, Russia propaganda network? And this is what we're talking about, fam. These are these neoconservatives who fell for the bullshit when it came to Iraq. You know, hearing all these people talk, I heard candidates that are conservative candidates that are running for office, right? They're not even a part of the establishment. They don't want to be a part of the establishment. They are even pro-war, anti-Putin, fam. And this is how you get the band back together. You get people to kiss and make up. You bring in that Romney, Dick Cheney, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell fashion of the kind of like right-wing party. And they go along with the establishment Democrats who like Bob Menendez or Melendez, whatever his name is. the congressman from Jersey who's on every single pro-war bill out there. He's a co-sponsor. They get to wear their Ukrainian flag together and unite and dupe the people, because this is what brings people together better, fam, than a good old war, especially with the number one James Bond villain on the planet, Vladimir Putin. To us, it's Klaus Schwab. To the idiots, it's Vladimir Putin, fam.
Yeah, they're creating their own Bond villain. And also, I mean, it's crazy how I'm getting, messages, because I think Rachel Blevins talked about how she received threats and stuff anytime she posted anything on RT. Nico posted how there's like bot accounts, and there's a lot of them. And you can tell they're bot accounts because they're like new or they don't have any tweets. And I've talked about this before, but like they're threatening a lot of people. Like I'll get like direct messages that'll be like, coward, traitor, and some of them are from conservatives, and some of them are from the leftists who say I'm not supporting sovereignty. It's hilarious how much closer you got the so-called wannabe cappuccino commies and the neocons shaking hands and breaking bread when it comes to this conflict, because guess what? It's not about left or right. It's about understanding the information. It's about understanding the history and how that historical context applies to the reality that we're facing. They have more in common with each other than they think. And it's hilarious watching those attacks from these people. And it's also hilarious watching some of the people that are, anti-mandate fall for this too, and vice versa, that are like, because it's like, we're consistent. And like, we're consistently telling you, these trucker convoys, they're not the real problems. Yes, they might have a lot of right-wingers, whatever, but these people have the right to protest, and they're not the problem. The problem is a fascist state that is attempting to freeze our bank accounts. Yeah. They go and sanction Russia here, and some of these same people are like, yeah, that's great. Or some of the people that we've argued with, some of the other leftists are like, this is really bad. How dare they do this? But they're somehow okay with the Canadian government doing it to the truckers. Guys, have some fucking consistency. It is not hard to be on the right side of things constantly when you are consistent in what you call out.
We saw the tweet out there of me, Ben Rubenstein, and Steve in Vegas, and a sign that said, fuck Putin shots, $5. And all these people are into it. And I was speaking to some people, and I didn't ask them their political affiliation, but the way they were kind of speaking, they were out from Florida. I would have probably bet they voted for Trump, but yet they were still all about the F Putin thing. And it's kind of crazy, fam, because you did mention this before, and I think it's important. When we would talk to a lot of anti-imperialists that were buying into the whole boop situation, we'd say, okay, the same people who own, Raytheon, Boeing, it's BlackRock. They also own Pfizer, AstraZeneca, all these Moderna, all these other companies and stuff. It's the same people. And they'd be like, oh, no, but this is different. And now you talk to some of those people who are anti-mandate, anti-boop and whatnot, and you're just like, the same people who own, Big Pharma own all these military industrial complex. It's the same people propagating this war. And they're like, oh, well, it's different. But it's crazy because it's like, it's like now you see some of the anti-imperialists who we were just mad at for buying into the whole bullshit. They're getting this thing right because they've been swimming in those waters. And I always say that the reason why people know certain things about certain subjects is when they're swimming in those waters, when they're looking at these subjects, when they're into these topics like we are for election integrity and foreign policy, then we understand what's going on. I mean, I said this before, when it comes to calling out BS, this should be a layup. If you've been paying attention, just a small amount to what's been going on in the Ukraine in 2014, a small amount, you should be able to say, this is BS over here. This is on Putin's doorstep. He has no choice. Maybe you can't justify it, but it has to be expected, especially when it's a Western-backed regime change war, when we have the receipts and then picking the next president as they're throwing the government out and then funding neo-Nazis. It should be quite simple. But my question to you is, fam, and if you can put it in your fam way, why is it important for us to have access to a channel like RT?
Well, I mean, it's as simple as for everything that we've been fighting for, everything that Julian Assange has fought for, the reason he is currently, still in Belmarsh. The fact is, you need to have a counter view, a counter narrative to the government. You need to have the people that watch and make sure that the government isn't exploiting and isn't lying and it isn't doing these things that it is doing. And unfortunately, the mainstream media in the United States is completely co-opted, it's completely controlled by the sectors of the government, as are social media giants like Twitter, Facebook, that have been, controlling anything that's coming out of Russian state affiliated media, as they call it. So if you don't have that, you're only going to get one narrative and one narrative only. And this country's already propagandized to think. I had one of my friends reach out to me recently and say, "What? I'm trying to follow this, but I thought Putin was like invading Ukraine and trying to take over the entire Europe." That's what she said to me. And I'm like, "No, that's wrong. Here, let me explain to you why this is wrong." And then we just got into the conversation and she was like, "I can't believe this, blah, blah, blah. You're right, they do lie." All it takes is having these conversations with people. But if they don't have access to that information or a counter view, they're all going to be propagandized. And we're already screwed in this country to that level. This is why they can manufacture consent for war. This is why you see all these idiots with Ukrainian flags everywhere, because it's already so saturated with mainstream media. People like us, we get demonetized, we get, taken down, we get shadow banned, we get all of these things, and they want us to stop. And so RT was a network that had a lot of people like us on, a lot of people that were, speaking against imperialism, having the Eastern perspective, the non-Western perspective. And when you take that away, you should ask yourself why they're so hyper-focused in censoring this content coming from Russia, especially if you were suspect about the pandemic narrative. Yeah. Why are you going to allow this? This is yet another psyop that's happening where they're trying to turn people against an entire group of people, against all of Russia, framing these people as evil. Russians are getting their restaurants destroyed, their books destroyed. I mean, this is the epitome of what I think is modern day book burning, because we don't have the same, people don't read prolifically as much with a literal book, but they watch videos or they read things online. And when you censor that content, you're burning books. Yeah. And you're burning books at an unprecedented speed, because we are now living in a technocratic corporate state where these people hold the most power. And it's only going to get worse from here. Yeah.
A lot of people would ask me, well, Pasta, how do you justify watching RT or kind of showing RT clips on your show or talking about RT when they are somewhat financed by the Russian government? And I've said this before, because listen, when it comes to RT, they don't have to give instructions. They don't have to tell people what to do. All they take is disenfranchised news people that were told by the establishment that they can't speak their mind, that they can't say what they want to say, and they found a home in RT. All RT had to do was go, okay, provide a platform, and that's it, and step off, because they already understand that they're hiring anti-establishment people who are going to give a different perspective than the perspective that's given on our daily news, our mainstream media news and stuff like that. And what does it hurt when you're telling other people that they can't listen to another opinion? You're telling them, no, this is the way you have to think. It's all about control at the end of the day. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to control you. It's like you talked about, fam, the imperialism of the mind. And this is a part of it right over here, because they have to completely control you. And God forbid you look at other points of views that aren't necessarily yours. We can't have that, because then you might not agree with our point of view. And don't get me wrong, it still works right now. We've talked about this before. The programming of being anti-Russian for a long time has gone on for quite some time. I've mentioned the movies, but it really does work, because I had this mindset growing up that Russia was the enemy. It's us versus Russia. It's us. Now they're trying to do it with China. And the beautiful thing about RT and the show Crosstalk right now, and I'm going to play three clips from Crosstalk. And I shared this video with you guys yesterday, and I encourage people, go watch this whole video, because there's so much information. When I found Crosstalk, I didn't even know it was part of RT. I didn't even know what RT was, but I was able to learn along with Kevin Zeese. I believe it's Popular Resistance, his
popularresistance.org.
Yes. Yeah. And I was able to watch them, and I went back and I was able to go back and watch all the 2014 crosstalks, right? And I learned so much. But here's the thing I did, fam, and I encourage people to do this, is when RT says something or when the mainstream media says something, go look for yourself. Go find the receipts yourself. It's out there. A lot of the information that you want to clarify is out there, whether it be true or false, and you can find it. The only thing is Americans are so goddamn consumed nowadays not just consumed with other forms of entertainment and reality TV. They're consumed with work, trying to put food on the table and keep the electricity on. So they're consumed in many ways that they just take what's given to them. And if you can eliminate RT and all these other voices out there, then you just have your propaganda, your messaging. It's almost like a Clockwork Orange in a way, the way they sit you down, force you to put your eyes open and watch their stuff. That's what they're doing. So this crosstalk that was on the other day, we have 3 great questions to talk about it. The name of the show is called Demilitarize and Denazify. And there are 3 great people on this particular show for this episode over here. We're going to break it down. And this is where I was able to learn about what happened in 2014 and go back. That's where I saw Mark Sloboda for the first time, and I fell in love. I was like, oh, look at Mark. Look at that hair. Look at that mustache. But he was great. And I love Peter, too. You know how I feel about Peter and whatnot. I like the whole mentality of crosstalk, of bringing in opposing views and sitting down and talk. Just sit down and let's, because that's what this country was built upon, right? I mean, I know you might have not heard it when you were growing up, but I used to heard, like, this is a country where you can hate the country and it's okay to hate the country because it's America. You're free to think about what you want, to think what you want to think, to talk about what you want to talk about. That's the beauty of America. Well, it's going the opposite way now. We're moving away. We're becoming more and more fascist, more authoritarianism is slipping into our daily discourse. So let's take a look at this. This is the first one, fam. I'm going to encourage everybody, go and watch this whole episode of RT. And the question I want to ask and pay attention to is, he's going to talk about the demilitarize and the denazify, and we're going to go over that stuff. But in your mind, fam, my question to you is, and watch this clip and then you can give me the answer, is and was Ukraine a failed state since 2014? Take a look.
But the denazification element is really important because that is completely omitted from the Western narrative, and it has been for a long time. The West always back radicals. They back radicals in the Middle East. They backed radicals in Ukraine, unfortunately, from World War II to the present. And this is a very complex political analysis that no one will ever undertake in the mainstream media, nor will they ever mention it. No politician will ever mention it as well. And the United States knew exactly where the fault lines were, and they aggravated those time and time again in order to manipulate the political situation in Ukraine, and most notably when Victoria Nuland and her team were over there during the Obama administration. This is when it really inflamed, and they really went for the kill, as it were, in terms of backing a violent coup in 2014. And at that point, Ukraine ceased to be a liberal democracy, because a liberal democracy means that you can have people from different ethnic groups and they have equal representation under the law. So at that point, you could argue that, from the 2014 Maidan coup, backed by the United States and the EU as well, and NATO member states, then Ukraine becomes a failed state at that point. When you deploy the military, basically to attempt to ethnically cleanse or to put down a rebellion based on race or ethnic origin at that point, and then you lose control of parts of your country for similar reasons politically, like in the Crimea, you're a failed state technically at that point. And it's only a matter of time before you continue to come apart at the seams domestically, or your neighbors will help in that process as well. This is not exclusive to Ukraine and Russia in this sense. This is really all over the world throughout history. Or at least the history of the post-Westphalian nation-state era. So I don't see this as a surprise, but there's no context. The background, the coup, none of it. And the fact that the Minsk Accords were completely sabotaged for 7-8 years is never mentioned. No context, no background, no history, nothing. All you get is, this is Vladimir Putin and he's the next Hitler, and this is the Sudetenland. That's all you get right now in the Western media and by politicians. And it's just incredibly arrogant and incredibly manipulative, and I would say really shameful, the treatment this is getting, especially from Western politicians who are grandstanding right now, pointing the finger, wagging the finger, and the media that will not allow any.
Bam, tell me your thoughts. Is it a failed state, number one? And your thought about the way they kind of note, they don't talk about any of this situation when it came to 2014, how there was a coup. They're not allowed to. And once again, just like the situation with the pandemic. Here is the mainstream media carrying weight and water for the ruling elite. No.
Yeah, I mean, this is everything he said we've talked about on this show, which I think is really awesome. That we were echoing the same thing without knowing it. I just saw this particular crosstalk, and I felt like I wasn't crazy because there's only been a few of us talking about this from this context. Like when I say a lot of people are hyper focused on Putin. I'm like, do you understand the historical context of how we got here? People don't want to hear it. They just want to focus on Putin is invading Ukraine. How dare you defend that? That's it. And it's this propaganda. It's this gigantic gaslight by the United States, by NATO, by their Western media propagandists. And he's absolutely right. You cannot have a democracy when you had a coup backed by a superpower, by an empire that didn't just back, but funded militarily and, of course, monetarily funded. And Victoria Nuland didn't just back this. She literally was on the phone saying, I don't want this guy. I want this guy.
Yeah.
So it's way more than that. So at that point, then Ukraine ceases to be its own independent and sovereign democracy and becomes a proxy colonial existence of the US and NATO, which is what Russia saw. And they had said a long time ago that this was their red line. And if the United States and NATO were to cross this red line, that would be a problem and they would have to respond. They knew, the CIA knew. And since 2008, they knew that was, at least since then, that was a red line, that if that were to ever happen and there was an eastward expansion of NATO, that would be something that Russia would do, that they would respond. And so what they're doing now is they're gaslighting and putting the blame on the victim instead of the actual perpetrators, because they are the perpetrators. This is why you see such gallant and such fervent hatred for Putin and Russia, and how they're doubling down on everything because they were the ones that were behind the coup in Maidan in 2014. And they can't. What are they going to do? Hold themselves accountable? Come on.
Well, you think that one politician would pull him out, right? You think that Thomas Massey or Rand Paul would be screaming this thing. Nobody's talking about the fact that they supported a coup in 2014. And because of it, Putin used the term genocide, but there's over 14,000 people who were slaughtered in the Donbass region and stuff. And it was all Western military grade weaponry given to neo-Nazis. And not neo-Nazis, fam, that are just oh, I think they're a Nazi, like a Trumper, they call them Nazis. These are hardcore neo-Nazis who admit that they're neo-Nazis, fam.
Yeah, exactly.
And the next slide, it says, is Ukraine a poor country? We've talked about it so many times. And it's the findings revealed in 2020 that Ukraine, 45% of the population will be living in poverty. What is the second poorest country in Europe? According to the World Bank, Ukraine is one among the most poverty-stricken countries in Europe. The average GDP per capita there is $33,425 per year. You're not going to buy a lot of food with that, fam, whatsoever. But I just also want to talk about the fact is that these neo-Nazis, once you give them a gun, once you give them power, once you give them money, and once again, it is a small minority, but it's a very powerful minority. Okay, because that minority is not only inside the government, talking about inside the Ukrainian parliament, they're inside the military, they're inside the police, they have their own militias, and they are not the best sounded people out there, fam. They're not all put together upstairs, if you know what I mean, fam.
Yeah.
So this shows right here, no peace in the Donbass. This is when, President Zelensky told them to stand down. They wouldn't listen to them. They're like, no, I'm not listening to. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to read the subtitles. We're going to get about a minute and change into this one right here. Take a look, and you can see the Azov battalion. It's saying, screw you, go scratch Zelensky. We're not pulling out. Go ahead, Oz.
Новый лозунг снова в рифму. Житие украинских националистов в звучных строчках. Коротко, понятно, антураж привычный. В масках при оружии бойцы батальона «Азов» огласили демарш президенту Зеленскому, демилитаризации и Минским соглашениям.
Если свою прямую обязанность защищать каждый сантиметр украинской земли не выполняет президент, власть, то выполним еще раз мы, ветераны-добровольцы. Мы даем слово, что мы никогда не покинем наш последний блокпост.
Так называемые отряды добровольцев самовольно заняли позиции вблизи Золотого. Там и в населенном пункте Перово сегодня должен был начаться обратный процесс – зеркальный отвод войск. Первый пункт деэскалации конфликта на Донбассе по инициативе украинской стороны вновь сорвался.
Несколько дней назад были обстреляны населенные пункты Золотое и Петровское. Но, насколько вы помните, наше решение про развод войск станет возможным только после того, как в течение недели на этих участках будет сохраняться мир.
Способствовать которому, по-видимому, должен нацкорпус, армия и отряды украинской полиции, будучи в шаге от мира, лишь укреплять.
Where's the squad on that, fam? Where's AO Sizzle on that one, fam?
Putin is an invader. He is he's a maniac. That's the narrative. Putin is crazy. That's all that they don't talk about this. It's as if it doesn't happen.
And you see the Azov battalion, they're at the freaking in the region of Donbass over there firing and killing people, right? Zelensky tells them to pull away, and they're like, no, we're not going anywhere.
He can't control them. Zelensky is like Mark Sloboda put it, a prisoner in his own existence. He doesn't have any power. The power is within these factions. Yeah. And that's what people need to understand. Just because he's Jewish doesn't mean that he's got the power. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Now, that doesn't mean anything.
And fam, there's a bunch of people, well, they didn't really know they were supporting Nazis. You know, maybe they were just kind of nationalists and they thought, and you know what I'm saying? They're like literally supporting and standing up. So when you're wearing the Ukrainian flag, AOC, Cori Bush, and Rashida Tlaib, just know who you're supporting. And the fact is, fam, I think a lot of people think that Nazis are just kind of like, they're only in a certain class when it comes to Americans. In other words, Americans, we hate Nazis more than anything because they stand against our way of life. No, Russians, communists that fought for so many years. Remember, we lost maybe 1 million people in World War II. There can be, the numbers are anywhere from 20 million to 40 million.
Yeah.
Russians were lost. So Russians, because can you imagine the Americans are now funding Nazis to take over the country, to be part of Ukraine, to go on the border of Russia.
We live in a fucking cartoon.
This is ridiculous. And people are buying this. So when people go, well, maybe they didn't know they were Nazis. Here's a little Canadian clip of a Canadian a gentleman who went and met with these people. He explains to you, no, the Azov battalion, they wear who they are on their sleeve. They tell you who they are. Take a look at this little quick clip.
We probably don't want to be rubbing shoulders with organized far-right militant groups that have, that are very open about it. I mean, you could go right now and view on YouTube their videos of their trainings. They're very forward symbolism. They're not hiding this stuff.
Canadian diplomats and soldiers in Ukraine took an unusual meeting in June of 2018, one that's now coming to light. It was a meeting with one of the paramilitary units raised to fight off the Russian invasion of Ukraine's eastern provinces. One problem, that unit, the Azov Battalion, has been linked to neo-Nazism, and the Canadian military knew.
Велику, могутню і соборну. Слава нації!
An Ottawa Citizen report says Canadian forces in Ukraine produced a briefing in 2017 saying members of the Azov Battalion identified themselves as Nazis. But the June 2018 meeting happened anyway, with a Canadian forces colonel and diplomatic staff attending. The battalion published pictures on social media saying Canadian representatives expressed their hopes for, quote, further fruitful cooperation. In a statement, the Department of National Defense says they are strongly opposed to the glorification of Nazism and all forms of racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, intolerance, and extremism, adding, our official position remains that we are not, nor will we be providing support to Azov and affiliated entities. Brad Galloway with the Center for Hate, Bias, and Extremism has studied the Azov Battalion. He says that while some neo-Nazi groups prefer to be discreet with their imagery, the Azov Battalion is more forthright. German news found members of the unit sporting SS symbols and swastikas, and Azov prominently places the wolf's hook and black sun, two symbols favored by the Nazis, on its crest.
Maybe there's a wing of them that want to tone it down a little bit so it's playable in North America. You know, that could be one aspect of it, but I think with the way they're doing things over in Europe, I think it's as advertised.
Galloway says what concerns him most is the Canadian government underestimating the reach of groups like the Azov Battalion. Similar to Canadians who join ISIS, Galloway warns that alienated far-right Canadians may see the Azov Battalion as a chance to turn ideology into action.
Some risk I see is that guys giving up on the movement in North America and saying, well, we should organize and go to Eastern Europe where we can actually do something, we can make a difference. And that's I think a huge risk.
In Ottawa, Shaoli Lee, City News.
Fam, I have a question for you, and true or false, America and its foreign policy, the American government supports some of the craziest ideologues out there not because they didn't know, but because they'll do their fighting and their bidding for them. True or false?
Absolutely true. It's convenient. The United States has already supported Nazis in the past during World War II, has hidden them, has covered for them, has put them in government. We have some of the most ardent fascists working in the surveillance state, in the intelligence community, and in our current government. So it is hilarious to me and completely just infuriating when I see a lot of the skinny jean left that is, again, like crying about Trumpers, crying about the Proud Boys, crying about the truckers from Canada. And of course, lo and behold, the Canadian government's hypocrisy. They're just our younger sibling, or, you know, the more like the a little bit nicer sibling that pretty much has Medicare, they have healthcare, but other than that, they pretty much espouse the same type of neoliberal, you know, global capitalist agenda. And then you have them feigning some sort of like outcry when it was the truckers and there was one Nazi flag and like someone brought a Confederate flag that was really sus, while the majority of videos that got completely ignored were all about peace and love and uniting and blah, blah, blah. But no, those people had to get their bank accounts frozen. And then Trudeau had to go on a tirade as to how they're so against racism and bigotry and blah, 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 while simultaneously turning away and pretending that the Azov Battalion aren't proud Nazis. And I'll give them that. They're proud of it. They don't lie. They say, we've shown multiple videos on this show of how they blatantly say, oh, no, we're a small minority group. We're very powerful and we want to fight and we want these people out. They tell you who they are. And yet you have the entirety of the Western media from Europe to the UK to Canada to the United States blatantly lying about this. And you have the idiot lefties, emotional leftists, completely turning away and saying, it's just a minority. It doesn't matter. Again, I never, ever want to fucking ever hear them complain about a right-winger ever again. Their ability to complain, their card to complain is completely kaput when they're supporting proud Nazis, neo-Nazis in this way. And also, of course, promoting imperialism via this way as well.
I think I'm going to go on Facebook tonight and troll some of those progressives who have the Ukraine flag and stuff and just mess with them.
Oh, God.
Put up pictures of the Azov Battalion killing people and whatnot, or something stupid, because these guys are idiots, you know, to even stand there. And it's so crazy that, you know, this is, you know, that we're supporting this. Now they put more fuel on the fire. They're sending more aid there, lethal aid there, giving all the citizens AK-47 assault rifles. One of the questions that, you know, about is this a failed state is that, you know, I didn't point out in this particular episode, we pointed out before that when it comes to corruption, Ukraine is at the top of the list. When it comes to human smuggling, gun smuggling, they're up there. So pouring more fuel on the fire is just crazy. Even if it is a small minority, it is a powerful minority. And Joe Biden was all part of, like, you know, get the attaboy from Joe Biden. And this is the Biden-Obama regime of sorts back in there again. So we sure showed some Patrick Henningsen, who's amazing. Patrick, I hope you'll come on the show. I love your work. I don't even know if his Twitter's still up, if they didn't take it down or not, but just amazing work. Please come on the show with us and talk some more. He's a great reporter, independent media reporter. And next we have George Semswali, fam, from Budapest. co-host and creator of The Gaggle. And this is something we've talked about on the show. And I didn't just want to point it out because I have a question when it comes to this situation, because we have said that no, the Biden, Obama foreign policy administration, all those people that come with it, the Ned Prices, the Antony Blinkens, the John Sullivans, the Victoria Newlands, the Jeffrey Pyatt's, all these names I'm mentioning, you should go look them up. These people are more dangerous than some of the people that Trump had in his administration, because at least Trump would keep hiring them and firing them and nothing would happen. These guys are ride or die from the get-go, have always been together. And are they more dangerous? And what does it mean for the future? So my question to you is, on this question is, fam, did the presence of the Biden-Obama regime back in power force Putin and Russia to act quickly? Here's George Samswali's take on it.
Works. And I think that because this post-Maidan Ukraine government has actually been in cahoots with the Democrats. I mean, if you remember, they got themselves involved in the 2016 election by openly backing Hillary Clinton, and they got themselves involved in the 2020 election, in the way with the Hunter Biden and all of the what we knew about the Burisma thing, and then we had the coup again. Ukrainians were involved in the coup against Trump. So this nexus of the post-Maidan Kiev and the return of the sort of essentially the Obama-Biden team may have triggered the Russians thinking, look, we need to act now, because in 2-3 years it may well be too late. And I think that in terms of your question, what do the Russians want? Russians will not tolerate, they've made it clear, they will not tolerate essentially an armed anti-Russia on their borders. I mean, this is what this whole state is just being created as a kind of NATO proxy, armed to the teeth, and it's driven by nothing else but animus toward Russia.
Fam, that's why they gave the Azov battalion all the power and the money and the weapons, because not because they thought they were the best for the Ukrainian people there, is because they were anti-Russian. And they knew that when they put them into power. But fam, your thoughts on, what we've been talking about, and I've said this before, from Sergei Lavrov, right? The defense minister of Russia, very much so, like, I wouldn't suggest going into the Black Sea, Putin kind of, standing off. We saw these same people that went back into power with the Antony Blinken immediately pivot to Russia. We need to go to war with Russia. We're going to start poking the bear. We're going to start putting Putin up as the worst, villain of all times and whatnot. Don't you think, fam, because the Biden, Obama foreign policy team got back into power, that they did force Putin's hand? And what does that really mean for the future of our foreign policy moving forward? Because when you hear Matt Duss talk about Ukraine, Matt Duss is online with what John Bolton says about Ukraine. It's almost the same.
I mean, I think this was always going to happen. I think they didn't want something like this to happen under the Trump administration, because they had to frame Trump as the boogeyman that liked Putin, even though that wasn't necessarily the case. And even today, they're still framing Donald Trump and Putin as friends. They're saying, Trump said something positive about Putin, because Trump is also controlled opposition when it comes to the right, because they have to make that side somewhat appealing to the other, to the people that are more on the populist side of the right. So they have to kind of promote that general thing. I think this was going to happen regardless, because NATO continued to expand and they didn't stop, and they haven't stopped at all. Even during Trump's presidency, they haven't stopped. And so I think in a way it will seem like that they had no choice, but I actually think it's just right in line with what was always going to happen, because they knew from the beginning that Russia's red line, like I said, was the expansion of NATO at their border, and of course the ABMs and the anti-ballistic missile machines, and so then they're not they know once this happens, and then once there's some sort of radical notion, you could look back to West Asia and what happened in Afghanistan, and pretty much parallel the two together, and especially also the creation of the radicals, the radical fundamental Islamist terrorists that the U.S. did. They know what they're doing. They benefit from it. And they were trying to create a state where there was a weakened Ukraine so they could come in and take over. And Russia instead precipitated their move and went over instead. And that's what they're really upset about, that they weren't able to carry out the step that they needed to actually complete the control of the country. If anybody wants to take control of Ukraine, it isn't Russia. It's the United States and NATO.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of people feel that Putin was too hesitant. Putin was too hesitant. No. Putin was too hesitant, right? Like that, Yanukovych even say, you have to intervene in the Donbass. These Nazis who are getting control over here, these paramilitary groups, they're really going to start killing ethnic-speaking Russians in the Donbass region right on your border. But Putin sat back. He said, let's go through the Minsk agreements, the Minsk Accords that was supposed to, talk about peace. And as soon as, Biden got back into office, right, you saw this kind of like pivoting towards them. And for all those people who say, I don't really believe that American foreign policy would actually aid neo-Nazis directly and knowing it, yes, they would. I mean, these are the people who made the Mujahideen and lifted them up because they killed Russians, whatnot. They pretty much made ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Our government doesn't care who we fund. If it's in our geopolitical foreign policy interest, we'll give whoever money who will do our dirty work. And that's what the Azov Battalion was and this Western Ukrainian government was. So remember in the beginning of Biden's term, he called Putin a killer. And Putin's like, really? Let's have a debate. Let's take a look.
The escalating tensions between the U.S. and Russia, Vladimir Putin now firing back after those sharp words from President Biden in my exclusive interview earlier this week. So Vladimir Putin, you think he's a killer?
Mm-hmm, I do.
So what price must he pay?
The price he's going to pay, well, you'll see shortly.
As we said, Putin is firing back. Let's get the latest from our senior White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. Good morning, Mary.
Senior.
Good morning, George. Russia this morning is furious and fighting back, even recalling their ambassador to the U.S., while Russian President Putin is now taunting President Biden with schoolyard insults. Asked about your interview and Biden's comments, the Russian president responded dryly, quote, "I would say to him, be well. I wish him good health," adding, "I say that without irony, without any jokes." Putin then going on to suggest that Biden is the real killer here. And now this morning, Putin is again challenging Biden to talk one-on-one live. I asked the White House about this, the press secretary almost laughing it off. It is an invitation that is extremely unlikely to be accepted. And while it's clear that Putin is trying to needle President Biden here, the White House says the president has no regrets about labeling Putin a killer. George?
Yeah, Mary, I offered to moderate that debate, but I'm not holding.
It's laughable that we would do that. You know how much adrenochrome we would need for that debate? Forget about it. Just kidding. Yeah. Just kidding. I love making that joke over there. It's so funny. U.S. Considering sending warships to the Black Sea amid Russian-Ukraine tensions. That's in April. You can see this building up time, fam. It was like slowly creeping. Like all of a sudden, we're paying attention now to Russia. The United States is considering sending warships into the Black Sea in the next few weeks to show support for Ukraine amid Russia's increased military presence on Ukraine's eastern border in their own country. As U.S. defense officials told CNN on Thursday, the U.S. Navy routinely operates in the Black Sea, but the deployment of warships now would send a specific message to Moscow, fam, that the U.S. is closely watching, the official said. The U.S. required to give a 14-day notice of its intention to enter the Black Sea under the 1936 treaty, giving Turkey control of the straits to enter the sea. It is unclear if the notice has yet been sent. And that's what Sergei Lavrov said. I would suggest you're not playing ball this time over here. And we've said this before from the get-go. Once this opened up, you see Putin telling Biden, you want to debate, my friend? Let's go. Lavrov telling him, I wouldn't do that. You saw a much more, I'm not going to play your game again. This particular regime, fam, Biden, who gave the attaboy thumbs up to Victoria Nuland, Jeffrey Pyatt, Antony Blinken, this particular regime, Russia understood who they were, and they said, we're not gonna be hesitant again. We're not gonna be lax. We're not gonna be passive. This time you mess around and find out what happens. That's what they said, fam.
Yeah. I mean, what else could he do? That's been my answer.
And by the way, just Turkey blocks the Black Sea passage for Russian Navy vessels as stuff is going on right now. That's what's happening today. Those straits to get into the Black Sea. Now, don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen. That doesn't mean that Russia can't get into the Black Sea. They obviously have land on the Black Sea, whatnot, so they can get warships in there from Mother Russia. But at the end of the day, just to show you the NATO ally playing games and making sure they stand by their boys. And that's something to think about. Really, to tell you the truth, it doesn't make that much of a difference, right? They can recall some ships that are out in the ocean, bring them into the Black Sea. They already have vessels that can get in the Black Sea, but it just allows Putin to look to Erdogan and go, okay, you've been on my shit list anyways. Erdogan in Syria, okay. So it's just more tensions building up through NATO and whatnot. It's going to be interesting to see where Turkey ends up. Fam, a lot of people, when we talk about the Donbass, now this is Peter Lavelle over here because it's something he points out, and everything we've talked about. You see, what I'm doing is what I used to do when I looked at all the 2014 crosstalks when they were mainly focusing on what was going on in the Ukraine. I would look and see what they were saying. I would look to see what Kevin Zeese was saying, and then I would go find the receipts myself. Just what we just did right over here. Is Ukraine one of the most impoverished countries in the world? Go take a look at it. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff. So look at this part right here because this is important right now. Peter Lavelle talks about when the Western Ukraine government took over in 2014 from the support of the West and the U.S., they really went after ethnic-speaking Russians in the Ukraine, okay? They took away their party, which they had one of the biggest parties out there. They took away their language. Here's Peter Lavelle kind of laying it down.
Toward Russia. Patrick, if we look at Ukraine, particularly since the end of the Soviet Union to 2014, we had this kind of neo-Nazi element. I mean, those that know the story, this kind of Galician, very Russophobic mindset. But it was a minority experience. And then the Maidan amplified it and actually this Galician mindset replaced what was there before. And I think that for me is one of the great disappointments of coverage of Ukraine in the media, because you had before you had a wide, very, very wide variety of opinions about politics. We had the Party of Regions, the biggest party in the country, was banned after 2014. One of the largest parties in the country was the Communist Party. It was banned. So what they did was they confined political discourse and participation. And of course, people in the Donbass were excluded. They were disenfranchised, actually blockaded, and the government under Poroshenko killed up to 15,000 of them. Again, not much coverage in the media.
So, fam, I wanted to just kind of clarify some of the stuff he's saying because that's very, very true. They took away the party of legions, the Party of Regions, excuse me. Yeah, the Legion of Doom. The Party of Regions, right, which was one of the biggest parties in the country. Most of the people from the Donbass region were part of the Party of Regions. That was their representation. It was a communist party, whatnot. Well, when the Ukrainian government got in there, they removed that party. And you can see right here, this is an article that talked about the Party of Regions, including mandate leaders, power-based structure, membership and membership cards, whether the party is still active or dissolved in other parties, whether authorities are able to identify Party of Region members. State protection is available for those members targeted by militias or other forces. So people of the Azov Battalion were actually, threatening people who were still trying to hold on to the Party of Regions with violence. And you can see right over here in this is part of the article, and it says right down below, if you look at the last part of the Party of Regions is now de facto disintegrated. The party is prohibited in many regions of Western Ukraine, and its local branches are therefore closed. They shut down this party when the majority of the people in the country was the biggest party were in this party, especially those people in the Donbass region and those ethnic-speaking Russians. They just disintegrated the party. So you could see what was going on right out of the gate, fam. That was in 2014. Boom. They went right at these people. And they let them know, we're going to go after you. We don't like you. Because they don't. And that's what they did. Go ahead.
And also I just got to reiterate the fact that all these dumbass so-called communists that are supporting Ukraine's sovereignty because it's so based and they hate Putin, who's a right-winger, you're supporting the current regime that got rid of the Communist Party. Just so you fucking know.
Yeah. And they didn't only just try to get rid of their party, they try to get rid of their culture.
The people, yeah.
Their culture. Ukraine region ban on Russia sparks controversy. Excuse me, let me read it again. Ukraine region ban on Russian culture sparks controversy. And here it is. And this is from Ukraine. The decision by a fiercely pro-Western region of Ukraine to ban Russian language arts from songs to books and films prompted widespread condemnation on Thursday, even as it remained unclear how it would be implemented. And they didn't know how they would implement it, but there was a sign like, we don't even want you to have your culture anymore. Lawmakers in Lviv's regional parliament on Tuesday overwhelmingly backed the open-ended moratorium on the public to use in any form of Russian language cultural product. The regional assembly said the moratorium would last until the end of Russia's occupation of Ukraine, referring to Moscow's annexation of Crimea and support for separatist regions in eastern Ukraine. So they're saying since Crimea decided to leave and go with Mother Russia, that they're going to punish all the people in the Donbass by taking away their language, by taking away, culture, whether it be in books or videos. Like they want to have a book burning party, fam. Get rid of all the Russian-speaking books. So just so people understand, this is what went on. So when people go, oh, well, these people in eastern Ukraine are just separatists and they're the ones causing problems. No, they were not. They were the victims. They are still the victims of today. 8 years it took Putin to go in there. So many people in his own country are like, what are you doing? You're letting these ethnic Russians get slaughtered. Here's the proof, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the beauty of crosstalk. So I am very scared if the United States is going to keep annexing RT, because this is a different point of view. And like you said, like I said, excuse me.
Not annexing, but yeah. Getting rid of them.
Whatever they're doing, they're getting rid of their, axing them, I should say.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's censorship. It's fascism. And we know what's what. All you have to do is go look for yourself, find the receipts for yourself. It's there in black and white.
And just the last video of this section is the video that Max Blumenthal posted. And Oz wanted to have it on. He said the most critical context you'll get on corporate media about the U.S. role in fueling the Ukraine-Russia conflict, delivered in less than 2 minutes by Scott Horton. Scott Horton, obviously, has been on with you, right, Pasta, multiple times?
He's a good friend of Steve's. He's on Steve's show. I was on with him one time. I love Scott Horton, antiwar.com. He is a libertarian, but yeah.
Let's hear it.
Let's do it.
So, Scott, is it rich for you hearing Condoleezza Rice describe Vladimir Putin in this way? And Emmanuel Macron has echoed her sentiment, as have other world leaders. Is this a talking point, or has he really gone nuts?
It's a thin excuse. Condoleezza Rice is the one who tore up the anti-ballistic missile treaty and put dual-use missile launchers in Poland that can launch Tomahawk missiles tipped with H-bombs. And she's the one who brought the Baltic states right on Russia's border into NATO and promised to bring Ukraine and Georgia into NATO. This is all her fault. While she was working for George W. Bush, what's she going to do? Take responsibility? Of course she says it's because of his mental illness. Oh, something, you know what it was? He woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning. And, as far as, I don't know who claimed this. The Washington Post said that Putin was promised that he'd win the war in a day. Putin said back in 2014 to an Italian diplomat, I could be in Kiev in 2 weeks. That was his threat. Now he's a fool who believed he'd win a war in a day. It took America 2 weeks, 3 weeks to sack Baghdad in 2003. We lost that war to the insurgency later on. But for Russia to be able to defeat Ukraine's state army is not in doubt. They have a 400,000-man army. The reality is that NATO expansion is the root of all evil here. Pat Buchanan and Ron Paul were right. We should have abolished NATO 30 years ago.
Yep.
Wow.
We should have abolished NATO 30 years ago. I mean, NATO is evil. NATO is an extension of the intelligence state. It's as simple as that. It's got to go. That simple.
Keeps the moolah flowing, fam. The money keeps rolling on in with NATO. So that's what it is. But that's That's that section.
Okay, let's
and-
go ahead and do the next section for the sake of time.
All right. No super raise. We'll hold off and do it now.
We'll hold off for the next one.
Get on into it, guys. Remember, this is the third section. The fourth section will be on Rockfin only. So if you haven't moved on over, there's 375 of you on YouTube. There's 160 of you on Rockfin. That's a great crowd for today. Let's share this and get it out there. Go ahead, fam.
All right. So there is a woman in this video that went viral where she went on French media, and the reporters were basically like confused because she started talking about how Zelensky is the crazy one, not Putin. And we're going to watch these videos and we're going to talk about them. And they're basically going to reiterate what we've been talking about. And then we're going to show you some Zionist Nazis. But first, let's start with this woman in French TV. And of course, it's subtitled. So make sure you're watching it, Pasta.
Vous avez vécu 25 ans là-bas et je crois comprendre que vous êtes en contact avec votre famille qui vivait à Kiev et qui a fui. C'est bien ça?
Pas tout à fait, non. Et là, il n'a pas fui du tout.
Alors, racontez-nous, quelle est votre situation?
Pour préciser un petit peu aussi, j'y reviens depuis 4 jours, en fait, de l'Ukraine. Personne n'y croyait, ça c'est clair, dans ces événements-là. Alors, pour narrer un petit peu, parce qu'on dit un petit peu beaucoup de choses, exode, ceci, cela, pour narrer un petit peu le problème qui nous concerne, c'est que le conflit dure depuis 2014, ça on le sait. Il s'agit quand même de la population ukrainienne qui est martyrisée au quotidien, 2 millions de personnes, que les problèmes de chauffage, c'est l'hiver, sont difficiles, le salaire moyen, vous m'entendez?
Oui, très bien.
Voilà. Pour se chauffer actuellement dans ces mois d'hiver, c'est plus de moitié que les ménages doivent consacrer à ça. Donc la vie est très très compliquée. Donc je vois pas qu'est-ce qu'on défend. Le président et le gouvernement fantoche là actuellement, que je trouve fantoche, et pas du tout celui que Poutine soi-disant va mettre.
Vous parlez là de
emporté contre tout ce qu'on entend là actuellement, les pauvres Ukrainiens, mais les pauvres Ukrainiens, ils y sont, avec ces gouvernements successifs, avec cette misère, avec cette économie délabrée.
Elle parle de Zelensky. Oui, mais vous parlez de Zelensky, vous parlez de qui? Vous parlez des...
De Zelensky, oui. Zelensky.
Donc vous, Ukrainienne, vous considérez que Zelensky, le chef d'État dûment élu d'Ukraine, est à la tête d'un gouvernement fantoche?
Fantoche, d'une chose, et puis la deuxième chose, c'est une personne pas du tout démocratique. Il y a quand même 4 chaînes oppositionnistes qui étaient fermées. Il y a des journalistes qui sont tués. On décrit ça pour la Russie, mais ça se passe aussi en Ukraine. Il y a quand même 4 journalistes qui sont tués depuis quelques années. Il y a tas de choses qui se passent qu'on ne sait pas et qu'on ne dit pas.
Oui. Donc ce que vous dites, vous...
Okay.
Damn.
Right. So again, there are disappearing Ukrainian journalists. This is something that that always comes up in my discussion with one of my parents. Oh, the Russians disappear journalists. Oh, it seems like Zelensky is disappearing journalists. It seems like, in fact, that he isn't a democratic leader, that people are in disastrous economic situations. This is from a Ukrainian living there. I'll show you guys another Ukrainian in a minute, but let's continue. You see how they're flabbergasted? They're like, are you talking about Putin? Or are you talking about Zelensky? She's talking about Zelensky.
That's the funny part, because they don't know shit about history, because they get their history from the mainstream media. That's why they're so caught off guard when they're like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, if you just follow some real freaking news, then you know what's going on, not get your news from your other cronies who are just taking State Department talking points.
So let's go ahead and play the next one.
Il y a tas de choses qui se passent qu'on ne sait pas et qu'on ne dit pas.
Oui. Donc ce que vous dites, vous... Attendez, ça m'intéresse. Ce que vous dites, vous, ukrainienne vivant en France et qui revient régulièrement en Ukraine, c'est que finalement les Occidentaux ont une vision un peu idéalisée avec le méchant ours russe et la gentille démocratie ukrainienne. Vous dites que c'est pas si simple que ça.
C'est pas si simple. C'est pas tout noir et tout blanc d'un côté ou de l'autre.
C'est quand même les Russes qui ont attaqué.
Je pense que monsieur de Gauche,
bien sûr qu'il attaque. Il a l'air quand même voir les choses avant d'avoir une vision.
Juste une chose. Les proches que vous connaissez, qui sont en votre famille, qui est aujourd'hui en Ukraine, j'imagine qu'elle traverse des heures difficiles et qu'elle est aussi en train de fuir ou de se déplacer devant l'avancée des troupes russes.
Il reste à Kiev. Attendre sagement. Ils étaient empêchés aujourd'hui d'aller au bureau.
Ah oui, ça c'est sûr.
Les proches, parce qu'il y avait des embouteillages, mais
ils y rentrent demain.
C'est la première fois que j'entends qu'un gouvernement démocratiquement élu est un gouvernement fantoche. Mais enfin bon,
c'est pas contre blanc ou noir, mais c'est bien la Russie qui a attaqué ce matin.
Est-ce que ça veut dire qu'il y a aujourd'hui à Kiev, je dis pas dans le Donbass, à Kiev, des Ukrainiens qui sont assez contents que les Russes interviennent? C'est ça que je dois comprendre de ce que vous me dites?
Absolument. Et puis le gouvernement aussi qui est élu démocratiquement, on ne sait pas du tout. Il y a des Ukrainiens aussi qui doutent de véracité de ces élections.
Bon. Bien.
C'est ce que je veux dire. On doute de beaucoup de choses.
Mais il faudrait peut-être dire des choses mises au point. Il y a eu une dérive sectaire de ce gouvernement. Moi, je veux bien l'entendre, monsieur de Gauchko, madame. Peut-être y a-t-il eu des dérives sectaires, peut-être il y a eu effectivement des assassinats de journalistes, mais je vous rappellerai qu'à Malte, on a aussi assassiné une journaliste. En Bulgarie, on a aussi assassiné des journalistes. Eh bien, c'est pas pour autant que on va envahir Malte, on va envahir la Bulgarie. Voilà. Donc, on n'est plus au temps de la Hongrie en 56, ou la Tchécoslovaquie en 68. Il y a un système judiciaire, peut-être est-il perfectible, mais rien ne peut venir justifier.
Mais personne ne justifie, vous venez de dire. Personne ne justifie. Non. Ce soir, il y a beaucoup d'émoi et d'émotions parce que des gens sont morts en...
Fam, you can't say that.
I mean, it's hilarious, right? So the comeback is, oh, well, maybe there were some journalists assassinated there, but there are journalists that are assassinated everywhere. So, okay, so what? Like she's constantly saying like we're suspect of the elections. This current Ukraine is not a democratic government, that Zelensky is a puppet, whether or not the election was false or not. He doesn't have autonomy to rule like any other, real president with real control would. This is why it doesn't matter that he's Jewish and these people are neo-Nazis in the government. In fact, it kind of proves the point, because he is powerless and he has been stripped of his power. And he's just playing along as woe is me. And they're going to cast Jeremy Renner to play him.
Zelensky.
I mean, this is a fucking joke. Zelensky,
Could you just see the suit there go gun on the phone? What freaking goddamn person booked the French lady on there that's freaking anti-Zelensky? What is wrong with you people over there?
She's Ukrainian, but she's living in France. So, yeah. And the last part... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the thing that I liked before you play the next clip was kind of like, wow, is like there are people in Ukraine who are like happy of the Russian invasion. They're like, yeah, we want this crazy chaos out of here because like we said, Ukraine is one of the most poorest countries now in that region, but it's also one of the most corrupt. And there's got to be a lot of people who are like, we don't want this shit anymore. This is a puppet government over here designed for one thing, to poke the bear, which is the Russian bear, and we don't want it anymore. That's interesting.
And the very last clip.
Qui sont assez contents que les Russes interviennent, c'est ça que je dois comprendre de ce que vous me dites?
Absolument. Et puis le gouvernement aussi qui est élu démocratiquement, on ne sait pas du tout. Il y a des Ukrainiens aussi qui doutent de véracité de ces élections.
Bien.
C'est ce que je veux dire. On doute de beaucoup de choses.
Mais il faudrait peut-être dire des choses mises au point. Il y a eu une dérive sectaire de ce gouvernement. Moi, je veux bien l'entendre, monsieur de Gauchko, madame. Peut-être y a-t-il eu des dérives sectaires, peut-être il y a eu effectivement des assassinats de journalistes, mais je vous rappellerai qu'à Malte, on a aussi assassiné une journaliste. En Bulgarie, on a aussi assassiné des journalistes. Eh bien, c'est pas pour autant que on va envahir Malte, on va envahir la Bulgarie. Voilà. Donc, on n'est plus au temps de la Hongrie en 56, ou la Tchécoslovaquie en 68. Il y a un système judiciaire, peut-être est-il perfectible, mais rien ne peut venir justifier.
Mais personne ne justifie, vous venez de dire. Personne ne justifie. Non. Ce soir, il y a beaucoup d'émoi et d'émotions parce que des gens sont morts en Ukraine. Alors,
et dans le Donbass.
Voilà, donc et dans le Donbass, si vous voulez, partout. Voilà, et que et que c'est difficile pour les gens d'entendre finalement ce système ukrainien, il n'était pas parfait, il était corrompu et on tuait aussi des journalistes, etc. Sous-entendu, tant mieux. Donc, ouais.
On ne voit pas devenir avec ce gouvernement-là actuel en Ukraine, au niveau économique, au niveau
on renverse ce
social.
gouvernement après un gouvernement démocratique.
Oui, enfin là oui, le truc c'est qu'effectivement, comme dit Patrick Martin-Génier, si on n'est pas satisfait, on renverse le gouvernement par des biais d'élections, mais on n'a pas besoin d'une invasion russe pour changer les choses. Mais merci Victoria. En général.
En février 2014 contre un président élu.
Ouais.
Rappelez-vous de ça quand même.
Comment?
En février 2014, il y a eu un coup d'État contre un président élu.
Yeah. So again, nobody ever wants to talk about the coup. Like they don't ever want to mention the coup. It's as if that didn't happen. It's as if it doesn't matter. They brush it aside. It's not that important. Yeah, but there was a coup, but that doesn't mean Putin can just invade.
Exactly. That's
you know,
so stupid.
it's like, what are you talking about?
He should just shut up and take an anti-Russian government put in there by the United States on his Twitter and just be quiet about it.
Yeah, exactly. And so the other narrative that has been going along is like what I said before about Zelensky, right? He's a Jew, so that means that there's no way this Nazi stuff, it's propaganda, it's fake news. You're just spreading Putin's propaganda. So recently there's this new narrative that they're trying to spin. And according to Zelensky, the Holocaust Memorial site was bombed in Ukraine. And this is what he says, and this is from The Hill. It says the Holocaust Memorial site was bombed in Kiev amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine, according to Zelensky. The Babin Yar Holocaust Memorial site in Kiev honors the estimated 70,000 to 100,000 people who died between 1941 and 1943 during the Holocaust by Nazis of Babin Yar, according to the Memorial Center. The center said that most of the Jewish population in Kiev died during that period. To the world, what is the point of saying never again for 80 years if the world stays silent when a bomb drops on the same site of Babin Yar? At least 5 killed. History repeating. That is what Zelensky tweeted. Now, I want everybody to know that this is extremely timely because their narrative is falling apart. Because the Azov Battalion, people are finding out who the Azov Battalion are. We just went over multiple videos showing you that they're proud neo-Nazis. Zelensky is allowing and is empowering the Azov Battalion with military weapons, and not only them, but prisoners that have been released to fight in this war. In fact, they are calling for people from all over the world to come in and help fight this war, to join the ranks of the Azov Battalion, essentially the people with most military power and government power in Ukraine. So it's interesting to me how they have to virtue signal about this supposed destruction that hasn't been confirmed by Russia. It hasn't been, they're denying this, while simultaneously funding and giving weapons to literal neo-Nazis. It's just a peak cartoon. And so one of the people from Nicaragua posted this on Twitter in Spanish, and the Convo Couch translated it and said, in case there were any doubt that there are Zionists in Ukraine supporting neo-Nazi groups, here are some images of these fascist terrorists who say more than 1,000 words. And you guys can look at the pictures. This is a picture of the Israeli flag next to the Azov Battalion. And then there's the insignia of these people with the Star of David, with the Azov. And then there's another one right there with a gun. So, these are paramilitary they're not just like neo-Nazis in theory. They don't just go around reading books. They have fucking weapons. Scouts. And there's the yarmulke with the insignia right there. I mean, this is just, so don't fucking come at me with he's Jewish, so you're full of shit. No, it doesn't matter. I got called a fascist confirmed by one of these idiots that hates me because I said that this is the new narrative they're trying to spin, right? And lo and behold, here you go. No. I'm an anti-fascist. I'm a real anti-fascist. When there's neo-Nazis that are real and have weapons and they're engaging in war and they're killing ethnic Russians, Slovaks, Romanis, and ethnic minorities, I stand against that. When there's a Trump supporter that says something you don't like, I'm not going to pay attention to that because I think whatever, let them say whatever. You guys continue to vote for Biden. You guys continue to vote for Democrats. That's, to me, it's more of the same. It's whatever.
Yeah.
But then, when it comes to real fucking neo-Nazis, I'm a real anti-Nazi. Okay. And that it's as simple as that. And these people weaponize the Jewish identity. So you can't criticize them. What about the Palestinian people that nobody's talking about? The little girl that got her face blown off. Because like that happens all the time. They don't talk about that. That doesn't matter. There can be Zionist neo-Nazis. So enough with that whole rhetoric that Zelensky's a Jew, so he can't. No, stop. Yeah. That narrative is dead.
Bam. I'm wondering if Marianne Williamson watches this part, would she still feel that we should send these people weapons quickly? I don't know.
That's the thing she doesn't watch.
You want to take that tweet back or say that I'd have been more educated on the situation, Marianne? That now you don't want to send the Azov battalion more weapons, whatnot. That dumping AK-47 assault rifles in one of the most corrupt countries in the world and giving it just to their citizens was not a good move. Maybe we look back to 2014 and see that this is a puppet government, just like this lady who said that was living there, it said, and we say, okay, our bad, we shouldn't have been involved. If you're going to be mad at anybody, be mad at Joe Biden and his freaking government and his regime, because they were the same people in 2014 under Obama who started this. And we've talked about Zionists giving these neo-Nazis weapons back in the past. This is nothing new, right, fam? We talked about this a long time ago. Here's just more proof for you, ladies and gentlemen. Here's more proof. But you know what? If all else fails and things are not going your way, fam, go to the bullpen. Go to the left hand. That's what they say, left-handed. Get Hillary Clinton in there. Get Clinton in there to mop it up.
When you start agreeing with neocons, with George W. Bush, with Hillary Clinton, you know there's something wrong. So here's Hillary Clinton propping up, this pro-war sentiment against Russia, against Putin, completely. This is Hillary Clinton, queen of warmongers. Let's hear what she said.
That is a possible way out. If the Ukrainians, with our help, can impose enough economic pain on Putin and, sadly, the Russian people, combined with providing weapons, that might be the only way that right now I can see us getting to a stalemate.
Did we play this video already? The second one?
From even greater tragedy.
Okay, I thought I.
Sadly, fam, the Russian people, we got to starve them out, but it's worth it at the end of the day because it helps our geopolitical goals. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and so just to counteract Hillary's point of view, again, another person living in Ukraine with family, and they have their own YouTube channel, and they've been talking about this forever, talking about what's going on every day in Ukraine. This guy has his own YouTube channel. So look him up. His name is Gonzalo Lira.
We played this the other day.
Italian. Yeah, I thought we did. That's what I just said.
The other day.
So make sure
it's a great one. I think we should play it again, too, as well, because there's somebody walking in the streets of Ukraine. You can see what's going on.
Just make sure to check it out in case you haven't checked it out. We don't have to play it. You just make sure, guys, to check out his YouTube channel. And then the last one I wanted to show was Wyatt's tweet, because and I didn't get to put Mint Press's video about how they were talking about Syrians. These aren't Syrians. These are Ukrainians. Again, more of that, these people are civilized just because they're Ukrainian. Now, again, you're fomenting that neo-Nazi sentiment very well there. But this is Wyatt Reed. Spot the difference. You got the Wikipedia page, 2011 military intervention in Libya. American-led intervention in Iraq, 2014 to 2021. American-led intervention in the Syrian civil war. 2022, Russian invasion of Ukraine. I mean, it's only an invasion when Russia does it. It's only an invasion, and he's only the crazy lunatic when it's Russia.
For us, it's
right?
intervention.
Everybody else is just a little intervention. And in fact, it's nice that they put intervention, because I'm surprised they didn't do humanitarian aid or, to going to help to restore democracy all over the world. I mean, that's essentially what it was until recently. I mean, they're now, at least they have to put intervention to be a little bit more, closer to the truth. But that's where we're at, you guys. That's where we're at.
You know who needs an intervention? America's foreign policy. Somebody should sit down, like, we're all in the room here. we need to talk to you. This is an intervention about your policies, and it's not good. Maybe you should stop arming radicals, supporting radicals, funding radicals. Maybe you should leave other people alone and stay out of stuff just because you want to have a geopolitical control over the whole world. Put austerity measures on the people by making them use your monetization system. Maybe stop stealing their resources. I don't know, but this is an intervention. We should have an intervention with America's foreign policy, fam. I think that would be good.
We do. We need somebody to name themselves the Guaido of America. You know,
America. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it for that subject over there. We got one topic left, one subject left, one area left, one section left that we cannot do here on the YouTubes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read these super rays, and then we're going to do a quick countdown. Just Oz, can you show them what we're going to be talking about real quick, though? We can at least do that. Hopefully they don't take us down for the title. The U.S. election framework in Wisconsin shines a light on corruption in nursing homes. Let's read these super rays, fam. First super ray right out of the gate. It is Juan Ryan, not Wine Guaido, but Juan Ryan. And thank you for the super ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch, guys. 186 followers. Let's have over 200 by the time I'm done. We have 358 still on YouTube, so we should pump these numbers up. You don't have to sign up for a Rockfin account. You could just click and go on over. Jilly Love, please put the tag. What do you call it? The link.
The link.
The link. Fam, help the boomers out. Also, Oz, please, come on. Bear with me. Kristen Nye, they want us scared of one guy at the convoy, but not scared of an army battalion of Nazis. Yep. Let's
Kristen,
just think about
that's a tweet.
that.
You should tweet that one. It's
That
insane.
is a great tweet, Kristen Nye. The rebel Ataku, the convo couch received a tip. It is always appreciated on the couch. ARAM, towards your independence and your health and your well-being. Convo couch rocks. It's from out of in front and on point. Walking the walk of principled left. Thank you for being so good at what you do. Few people are good at all. From important journalism and trusted sources to articulate, eloquent, and fiery but composed rants. So fucking good. Especially Pasta. He's so good looking. Jack Klugman. Thank you. Jack Klugman. ARAM, thank you so much for your Super 8 contribution. Thank you for allowing me to slip in my last thing. Jack Klugman, thank you for the Super 8 contribution. You guys been on it lately. Keep up the great work, fam. Hey, we've been talking about this very same situation in the Ukraine from when we started the show. Our old
in the Ukraine.
What's that? Yeah. They said, listen, we've been binge watching the old shows. So they're going back and looking to see our consistency. But fam, like you said, we are consistent the way we think. You know what I'm saying? Our thoughts, they're there. We don't kind of sway with the wind and say, oh my God, if we feel this way, fam, what will the progressives say about us? Oh no, we can't say that. Putin bad. Putin, don't do imperialism.
Show me how little I give a damn about what those people think anymore.
I know, fam, right? It should be understood, and this is by AREM again for another Super 8 contribution, that one of the very first things the new 2014 post-Ukrainian coup action was to try, and unsuccessfully, to remove Russian as an official language. Yes, they did. So the idea, if I saw it correctly, that the post-coup government is enacting or trying to enact anti-Russian legislation is because of recent developments is a lie. It is a pretext for doing what they wanted to do all along. AREM, you are so correct. Mm-hmm. That's why they supported this crazy fashion.
That's why I don't call this an invasion, and I certainly don't think it's illegal. Because even Aaron Mate said something like this is still an illegal invasion, and I disagree with his analysis there because this is simply
both sides
acting like reacting to what was done. This is Putin pretty much saying, "Okay, I'm gonna put my foot down, and you guys can't do this anymore because I see what you're trying to do here, and I'm finally gonna say no." And that's why I've been so I've advocated against any sort of sentiment that's showing him as a crazy lunatic. I'm not, he's still an oligarch. He's still, a very rich individual. His whole family is, that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is how we got here and the historical context that nobody wants to fucking talk about. And they want to separate like, oh yeah, he's just crazy. He shouldn't have done that. It's mean. Look at all these people. They're getting hurt. Well, you should have thought about that before we literally armed and backed these people in 2014 and before that, and NATO's expansion and all of that. Like, you can't judge this in a vacuum as if none of the other stuff happened. And I think too many people in their analysis are only looking at it in that way. Well, you have to say that what Putin did was bad. No, I'm sorry. Like, I would have done it sooner. And that's the thing.
Yeah. 198 people, guys. A couple more gets us over 200. Help us out. We got still under 250 people over on the YouTubes. By the way, our troll showed up. One of our 2 trolls showed up on Rockfin, gave us the thumbs down. Thank you. Welcome to the show, troll. We love you. We miss you. I'm glad that you are here. Eric, thank you for the super great contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. Come on, guys. I don't want to go down in followers. I want to go up. Help us out over here. Get on over. If you're on
You're annoying people, Pasta. That's why.
Okay, fam. We're going to talk about elections, so that should supersede my annoyingness. Keep Left says, thank you guys for being true to the truth. Blessing to you and Jimmy Dore and Steph. Keep it true. Hopefully they'll have us on to talk more about that stuff. Black in the Empire, you better call me. Call me. Keep on telling the truth. Love you all. We love
you, Daryl.
Saw Daryl at Defeat the Mandates. He came down to DC. Saw Patty, saw Christine, Miss Soraya, but there was a lot of great people there. It was an amazing event. Probably have an announcement coming up about the next one that's going to be taking place, but it is kind of crazy, fam. I like what people said. Russia defeated Corona just like that, because nobody's talking about it anymore, fam.
He should win the Nobel Prize for defeating Corona.
That was the
100%
Babylon Bee.
nominee.
All right, guys, this is it. This is the time we give the countdown. Jilly Love, thank you for giving everybody the link. See, boomers can learn. We are leaving YouTube in 5. Oz, bear with me. You got to learn with me, okay? And 4. 4. All right, 5 and 4. I know how to count. In 3. In 2. In 1. Bye-bye, YouTube. Get on over to Rockfin.